All right. It's 6:30 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order, the regular meeting of the board. Ms. Gilbert, can we have a call of the roll?
Yes, Mr. Biederman.
Present.
Mr. Lane.
Present.
Dr. Bertada.
Present.
Dr. Palacio.
Present.
Dr. Payne.
Present.
And Dr. White.
Present.
We do have a quorum.
Thank you. The chair recognizes a quorum. Good evening and welcome everyone to the regular meeting of the Indianapolis Public Library Board of Trustees. My name is Ray Biederman. I'm Vice President of the board. I'm presiding this evening in the absence of our president. We're looking forward to an informative and productive meeting as we continue to advance the mission, vision, and goals of the Indianapolis Public Library. I'd like to thank the Hallville branch for hosting our meeting tonight. We'll hear from Hallville's branch manager in a few moments. But first, I'd like to make note of some major accomplishments in the last month at the Indianapolis Public Library. To start, I'd like to congratulate our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Lolita Campbell, and our Director of Accounting, Ms. Mary Rankin, and the whole finance team for their hard work to prepare and present the 2024 budget. 1 week ago, on October 16th, at the meeting of the City County Council, the IndyPL 2024 budget was approved. Congratulations and thank you. Also, since our last board meeting, the Indianapolis Public Library oh, there we go. Thank you. Also, since our last board meeting, the Indianapolis Public Library successfully hosted Banned Books Week, which featured an event with New York Times bestselling author and Freedom to Read advocate John Green. We'll hear more highlights in next month's board meeting, but I'd be remiss not to thank the staff of IndyPL for the great work in programming and promoting Banned Books Week. Now I'd like to introduce Ms. Monica Tabuda, Hallville branch manager, who will report on the Hallville's community and services. Ms. Tabuda has celebrated her third year as branch manager of Hallville. She received her MLS from Simmons University, ranked as one of the top schools to offer library science in the country. She has worked in a few libraries across the country and has also been a children's librarian. Ms. Tabuda, thank you for hosting tonight's board meeting, and we welcome your report.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Evening.
Good evening.
Sorry. I want to thank our esteemed board members and the members of the public here. I extend you all a warm welcome to the Hallville Branch Library. So we'll get started.
And for those in the audience, we have a screen behind us.
This library has stood as a beacon of our community since 1896, making it an integral part of the Marion County library system for 127 years. In 2003, the Hallville branch found its current home in the 11,000 square foot building we're in today. This marked the fifth location for our branch, where it once again found its rightful place at the heart of the neighborhood. This achievement was made possible through the collaborative efforts of the community organizations and the library, ensuring that the library remains at the center of the service area. Currently, the Hallville branch serves as the vibrant communities of Hallville, Stringtown, Hawthorne, and We Care. So as you can see, in 2022, we checked out about 41,000 items. We checked in 29,000 items. We had a door count of almost 59,000 items. We currently have 20 public computers, 5 educational AWE computers for children, and we had 40 programs in 2022 that averaged about 2,595 patrons who attended. Over the years, we have undertaken initiatives to enhance our library's offerings. In 2017, we conducted a small remodel that brought the reference and circulation desks together. Then, in 2021, with the generous support of the Indie Arts Council, 2 local artists, Nasreen Khan and Israel Solomon, painted 2 remarkable murals in the children's area. One mural, seen here, beautifully depicts the landmarks from the 4 communities in the Near West. The other mural honors 3 local community leaders who have left inedible marks in these neighborhoods. These community leaders depicted are Father Ken Taylor, Holy Angels and St. Rita's pastor, Margaret Kenley, a longtime former Hawthorne community leader, and Luscious Newsom, founder of the Lord's Pantry. We also have numerous other achievements to celebrate. Our dedication to serving our community led us to convert the public service assistant position into a librarian role. We proudly welcome Alvaro Gomez as our new circuit supervisor, Alice Selm as our new juvenile librarian, and Aaron Davis as our new computer assistant too. We are one of the few libraries with not 3, but actually 4 Spanish-speaking staff that is available to serve our Spanish-speaking patrons. Our summer reading program reached great heights. Our readers logged a combined total of 91,000 minutes for juveniles and 56,000 for adults. We collaborated with the local organization Fonseca Theater to bring a 3-session, 2-hour theater program for school-age kids, focusing on costume making, writing, and acting. We also have a new partnership with Step Up that has opened the doors for monthly health truck, providing essential testing and community navigation services. The Marion County Health Department is also conducting a year-long program featuring monthly healthy nutrition classes here in the library. We invested in our adult sections with new shelves and introduced a dedicated LGBTQ+ section. These accomplishments reflect on unwavering commitment to empowering our community through knowledge, culture, and support. We are excited about the future and remain dedicated to serving Hallville and its surrounding neighborhoods. Thank you for your continued support in helping us achieve this mission and enriching the lives of those we serve. Does anyone have any questions?
How have you attended to the changing demographics here? I was so pleased to hear about the 4 librarians that are first language Spanish. It's tremendous, because that is a big difference. I remember when you first started here.
Yes. Well, we make sure, like I said, when we're hiring, we're trying to post the positions in the community so we can get people that represent the community to know about the positions that are being posted here, and then they can apply either for any positions that are posted here, the librarian positions, the PSA positions, the page positions. We let them know about that. Like I said, we've recruited quite a few Spanish-speaking people who have started now. We recruited a librarian for a local school nearby that closed down. That was already known to the community members, so that when she came here, when the patrons came here and they saw her, they were like, oh, I know who that is, and they had already a building relationship with her. So we're trying to do that. We make sure to just kind of speak to all our patrons and try to see what they're interested in. We had a patron come in about chess club, for example. We're trying to get chess started again in the branch. We're trying to work on letting people know about maybe a game night that we might redo as well for this year and next year.
How do you do a neighborhood or a needs assessment to determine those needs?
We've been very thankful that we've had a couple of different social worker interns that come in here, and that they've collaborated with us, and they've done a couple of needs assessments as well. So they've been able to share that with us and seeing what, because as they're working on a social level, they get to know some of the patrons, and they're like, okay, so we also need this and that, and we have that information as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to say it's great being at my home branch for this board meeting, and I'm glad to see in that presentation my friend and local artist Nazarene being featured. I think her work is just so incredible, and I'm so glad that's in the library. And all the different programming that you have, including working with Fonseca Theater, like you all do so well at like tapping into like the neighborhood talent, I think. And I'm just curious, like, how do you get the word out for the programs, and how do you reach these artists in different theaters? How have you been making those connections?
We've been very lucky that we have a lot of community organizations in this area, so I make sure to, reach out to them, build relationships with them over time, and then let them know about programs that are happening. When we have a program, we try to go out to all the different community organizations and drop off flyers, email them, or bring them in person. We also go to like the local high schools, and like I'll drop off like a teen event, especially because we're trying to get a lot more teens here. And like I said, we're fortunate in Hallville. We have a lot of people trying to do good work. Like, Fonseca Theater is a great organization, and I'm like, I've been excited for a while to do a program with them. And it actually went really great. The kids were really happy with the program. So we're just continuing to do outreach.
That's great. Great. Question. Yep.
So yeah, thanks for the report. That was nice. With about 40% of the population around here being Hispanic, you talk about getting staff who speak Spanish, but
Yep.
can you also talk about culturally aligned programs, or like how do you bring also that connection with the different cultures that may be in the community?
We've been trying to do some programming, like for example in Spanish, computer classes, like learning computer classes. Recently we had a Spanish finance class as well. It's kind of hard to get the word out there because a lot of people, like a lot of working families are they don't have time to come to the library. Just getting the word out is really important, and just over time we're trying to build, making sure that the Spanish-speaking population knows that we're having these events. We're just continuing to work on that, like, going to the areas that we know that they have a lot of Spanish-speaking populations, and everything is important.
Thank you.
Maybe working with the Christamore House, which has historically served the Black community so very thoughtfully, might be a good way, because an increasing number of Latino families are working with the Christamore House as well.
Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right.
I just had a gentleman who, when I was out there looking at everything, stopped me and asked me if I could put in a plug to return to the use of DVDs, because everybody doesn't, especially probably people my age and more, don't know how to do the streaming and all of this.
Yeah.
So I told him that I would certainly bring that up to you. Do you
Okay.
have any DVDs?
We have a lot of DVDs. We have a dedicated amount of DVD users who come in here. We try to keep, we have our own little curated section of new items. We have like a lot of different, people are still using a lot of, different technology. So we still have like a pretty active CDs, DVDs, patrons, users, audiobooks that are being checked out of the library. So we make sure to keep those current.
I should have gotten his name and number so I could let him know.
Over here.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, it's when the library stopped buying CDs.
Yes.
This is the problem that I go to most of the branches, it depends on where I have to go. I have noticed older people are having trouble streaming or using Hoopla or other stuff, because they cannot get the music and they have problems, let alone having problems with their phone. That is much more difficult for the older people when the library stop buying CDs because they want to go ahead, stay in advance with technology. They are forgetting that the library has older patrons who are already having trouble with their cell phones, let alone stream.
Yeah.
So would the library even consider making sure that CDs are still available to be purchased for librarians when requested?
I believe the librarian, the collection people are probably still working on solutions to tackle that very issue. I don't know too much about it, but I know that they are aware of that concern.
Good. Deb's going to speak.
Oh. Okay.
Good evening, board members and members of the audience.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We, the problem with music CDs is that we're running with trouble with supply chain issues and also low demand for music CDs. So we have to prioritize our funds to where the needs are with the community and using the collection. And we've had far more demand for using ebooks and e-audiobooks, which we've talked about in the past being twice or three times as expensive as physical versions of them. So we have to make difficult decisions to cut low-use formats. We are looking at the future of CD books, knowing that they are going to be hard to acquire as well because the production of CDs is just going out of business and supply chain issues. You can't find them at Best Buy or other places like that too. The library's having trouble acquiring them. Knowing that that's going to be happening with CD books as well, we are going to be shifting to a format called Playaway, which is a small dedicated device for audiobooks so that we will be able to continue to serve the senior community and the outreach community with audiobooks. Unfortunately, we don't have an option like that for music CDs. So that's where we're staying with that. Any questions?
Thank you very much. All right. So any other questions for Ms. Tabuda? Okay, thank you, Ms. Tabuda, for your report.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate you, your librarians and staff members who proudly serve the patrons of this community. Next, we will feature a brief report from a support services unit, the shared system. May I ask that Ms. Sarah Batt, manager of the shared system, approach the microphone and give an overview of your area. Thank you very much.
I thought I was going to be last. Okay, good. So I'm Sarah Batt. I'm the manager of the shared system. I worked for the library from 1990 to 2000, and then I took some time off and did a year of service actually here in Hawville in the year 2001. And I brought the first elementary school library into the shared system at that time. And then 6 more when I worked for the Archdiocese. So I've served on both sides of the desk in the shared system, both as a school library manager and as an administrator. And then I've been back with the public library since 2012. Let's see. The library, the shared system, is really rooted in generosity and innovation. We've been serving schools in Indianapolis since 1873, when we curated collections for schools, both public and private. It was originally funded by IPS when the 2 organizations were joined, and then the collaboration ended when the 2 organizations separated in 1968. As far as the generosity goes, it was tremendous and gave a great boost to the 2 libraries really around the county. There was an anonymous bequest made to the Indianapolis Foundation in 1989 that was for high school libraries, college and university libraries, and the public library. And these libraries were called the eligible libraries. They started out by buying databases, but they realized that not everybody in the group had an automated collection. They didn't have an electronic catalog. So they agreed to level the playing field for those libraries, and they contracted with the public library in 1995 to automate the collections of 11 high school libraries. And after, the library did that cataloging both on site and then from shelf lists, so it was really hands-on. When they were finished, the library invited the schools to use the catalog to create library cards and check out their materials, and the sharing evolved from there. So back then, as today, students and faculty request materials from other member libraries and then from the public library. It's the first and only fee-based contractual model in the country to offer shared resources between a public library and a school. It's the largest shared system in the state. It touches all areas of the library and all corners of the county, as you can see by the purple dots on that map. Members include public, charter, and private schools. There's 3 museums, the Indiana Museum of Art, the Indiana Medical and History Museum, the Idle George, and then 3 special libraries. And I cannot remember the name of the third one, but I was trying to remember earlier. The Jewish Community Library and the Riley Hospital for Children and somebody else, and I'm embarrassed that I've forgotten their name. We have a very small staff of 3 people. One is responsible for the supervision of the weeding and relabeling IPS materials that I'm going to get into in a couple minutes. The other 2 of us provide training, coaching, troubleshooting, and reporting. We work with departments all through the library. In collection management, we work with cataloging that does the cataloging for the schools or importing records from vendors. Digital Projects digitizes the weekly newsletter and then shares interesting facts in the newsletter monthly. The e-resource librarian is invaluable. She works with schools on accessing databases and requests input on databases under consideration, and she offers troubleshooting when needed. We work with shipping and receiving constantly. They're out every day delivering materials to our schools, and they go above and beyond many times. We also work with the selection department, which offers a very popular presentation on current trends in publication and provides updates on publishing news. Our accounting office is wonderful. They invoice members for services provided, including startup, annual delivery, processing, and cataloging fees. Branches and central libraries answer reference and circulation questions and communicate with shared system staff when needed, usually about requests or about teacher classroom sets. Program development and communications provides information on upcoming programs or new resources that I share with all the members. So we're very busy and very connected. And I had to share this picture with you. This is fairly recent. Jean Luen Yang was here just a couple weeks ago to speak at Central Library one evening, and the program development area staff made special arrangements for him to visit Harrison Hill Elementary School in Lawrence Township. And you can just see the connection that he has with that little boy. He had that same kind of connection with all the kids in the audience. It was just wonderful to watch. They got a little squirrely sometimes when he was talking, but you could tell that they were talking about him or about his books. They weren't talking about, what's happening on the playground. It was really neat. The school library manager was able to augment his visit by borrowing many of his books from the library for her students, and by the end of the day he visited, they were all gone. So she was having to order in more. I wanted to share with you some statistics. You can see that our circulation is growing. These are by school year, so that's why the current year looks so low. We're not that far along in this school year. This year we have 30,609 students with library cards, and there are over 542,000 items in the catalog that belong to the shared system members. 59,000 items have been added as part of the IPS project that I promise I'm going to get to in a minute. Shared system school staff at 49 schools created new library cards for 3,664 students this school year. So we're working on achieving that strategic plan goal of increasing the number of card holders. And here's a look at the circulation by source. About 15% of what is checked out at schools is owned by other locations, either the public library or other schools, mostly by the public library. And this has been consistent the last 11 years that I've been here. Shared system members also shared 8,523 items with NDPL patrons, and they really like to do this. They like to share what they buy with NDPL patrons because it validates their purchase decisions. So, let's see. Now I want to talk about Lawrence Township schools. They prompted a number of innovations and changes in the shared system and the library as a whole. They joined as a district in 2015. There were 15 schools. And here are some of the things that have changed since they joined us. We started centralized delivery. We delivered at just one location at Lawrence Township, and then their drivers delivered to the schools. And this is a practice we've adopted for IPS. We have the ability to create limited access cards for students whose families don't sign registration forms that accept responsibility to pay for lost materials. IT developed an invaluable process to import student data from schools. That's what's allowed our library card campaign to reach all of the districts that it has. Unlike other large city school card campaigns, the library explicitly invites students to check out up to 3 library items at a time from branch locations and assume the risk for those materials if they got lost. That's really incredible. Most major library systems that do a card campaign do not do that. We also didn't create duplicate cards for students, as some do, because we wanted the data to be studied down the road. I've always said that I'd like to write my doctorate on library cards and how they've been used throughout the years here. I don't think I'm going to get to it, though. let's see, students entered with a lot of debt for fines and lost books. And I hold that this is when we began the conversation about going fine-free, because it's the first time that we got a really good look at how many cards were no longer in use because of debt that the students had been holding in their cards for such a long time. Lawrence, here's another innovation. Lawrence Township language arts teachers wanted students to read really popular books. I think the one at the time was The Maze Runner, and they wanted us to purchase them for them with Overdrive. But because those titles already had really long waiting lists, any books that we purchased for Lawrence Township would have gotten eaten up by our patrons. So that's when we developed our collaboration with Access 360, which helped us set up an ebook sharing outside of the public library's collection. Lawrence Township is also the first school district to subscribe to Beanstack, which you probably heard about us using for a summer reading program, and it allows students to participate in reading challenges both at school and with the library at the same time, so they can double dip. They'll get prizes both from the school reading challenge and from any that we might be running at the same time. And here are the Lawrence Township schools now, as they are now divided between Fort Bend and the Lawrence Branch service areas. I promised I would talk about the Indianapolis Public Schools. In 2017, we conducted a really extensive feasibility study that was made possible by the GLIC Fund, a fund of the Central Indiana Community Foundation, through gifts to the Public Library Foundation. A very thorough analysis, and it was really thorough, of both the IPS and NDPL systems determined that it was not feasible for IPS to join the shared system at that time. Things changed. We got a new sorting machine. The shared system became more familiar to IPS library staff. IPS got a new media center coordinator who could see what the possibilities were with the shared system, and probably most fortuitously, IPS received elementary and secondary school emergency relief money, over $217 million. Now, that doesn't all go to the shared system, but it does make a small but important part of that grant. The IPS CFO called this grant generational money and said that it would create a change that would affect generations of IPS students, and I really do believe that's true, and I'm starting to see it with the schools that have been in the shared system for a really long time. IPS administrators made a really compelling case for the need for the shared system. They looked at the age of the collections that they had at their schools and the low circulation, and it was really a dire situation in some cases, not in every case, but the affected library departments, which is just about everybody, agreed to move forward with bringing them into the shared system. In addition to joining the shared system, that ESSER money is allowing IPS to purchase high-interest, high-use books. They're spending around $40,000 at each school that's coming in. Schools that haven't had a designated library staff person or staff time or a budget in several years will be able to add enough books to achieve parity with schools that have enjoyed better staffing and funding. IPS is really intent on changing the staffing levels, budgets, and culture so reading will be given greater prominence, and we play a big role in that. These are the 12 schools that will be joining the shared system in January. We're working at rebarcoding and relabeling their materials. We have to have a consistent barcoding system, and we wanted to have a consistent call numbering system so that when kids from their schools go to a library branch, they know where to find the JZs, the books that are beginning readers, or the JPs, the picture books. So that was an intentional thing on our part. These are the 7 schools that are joining IPS in August of 2024. And then these are the 7 schools that are going to be entering in January of 2025. So that's pretty cool to see them like that. We are just getting started with Sora. Sora is the school-based application that works with Overdrive for ebooks and downloadable audiobooks. And you can see there the list of, oops, no you can't. You can see there the list of districts that already use SORA. These are not all part of the shared system. Those two are just two different ways of sharing library resources with the community. There is some overlap, but not all. And it's getting off the ground a little bit slowly, but so far 1,100 students have checked out 2,600 books. And I would note that those downloadable audiobooks are getting more and more popular. They're just really growing in number. Overdrive does have a public library application called Libby, and I've been asked, why would you use Sora instead of Libby? Well, Sora is the school-based app. It allows the schools to set some limits as to what students can see by grade level. That's really helpful. Plus, they took the collaboration that they did with Access 360 and brought that over into Sora. So schools will have access to some or all of the following: a school-owned collection, a district-owned collection, an original shared collection that was created in Access 360, and a new shared collection. That new shared collection does have a per-student fee annual, and we tried to make it accessible by tying it to the school's free and reduced lunch rate. So the schools that had a low free and reduced lunch rate didn't have a very high bar to climb to get into the program. So there's about 5,000 more books available through Sora than what patrons can see in Libby or in BiblioCommons. So in conclusion, rooted in generosity and inspiring innovation, the library's shared system will grow from 15 to 88 members by its 30th anniversary in 2025. This December, we're going to begin to examine some of our existing practices to see if they still meet the needs of our members and can be met with the existing capacity. In the spring of 2024, we will develop some long-term plans based on our findings. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Questions?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Dr. White.
Outstanding presentation. I have two questions.
Yes.
Did they lose the memo between your action in Washington Township? I mean, a long time ago, I think when I was even principal of North Central High School, we started this collective type of book sharing situation, and then the superintendent, I thought they were involved in a book sharing situation. Has Washington Township ever been a part of
No,
that?
they've never been a part of the shared system. They are one of the eligible libraries, so they do receive funding from the library fund of the community foundation to purchase materials. I've talked with them about it, and it didn't go far. And I also have talked with them about the ebook program, and I don't know that they have an ebook program right now.
You say it didn't go very far when you talked to them?
Yeah.
Did they give you any kind of rationale? Because believe me, they have a lot of students out there that need to be reading books,
Yeah.
rocks or something.
Well, they're going to have to wait for our 30th anniversary because right now we are really, our hands are very full with IPS, but I would love to put them on the waiting list.
Well, that's
Dr.
not
White.
for me to do.
I
but
know,
was-
Dr. White, but
when I look at IPS, Lawrence, Perry, Pike, Wayne,
Now-
Decatur, Warren,
those are not all in, the whole district isn't in the shared system. Like we have Decatur Central High School is in, Warren Township, the high school is in Sora. Perry Township is using Sora, Pike Township is using Sora, but they're not part of the shared system. So there's like two different levels. But yeah, I'd love to talk to anybody about the shared system.
I wish I knew somebody to tell you to talk to.
Okay.
I'll look for someone.
Okay, thank you.
I just want you to know that I am elated
I know, Dr. Payne, yes.
about the growth of IPS because it has been a long, hard
Yes.
time to finally see this. So
Well, the library's wanted to do something with them for a long time, and
know.
we're just as excited as you are.
thank you.
Great. Any other?
I had 3 questions.
Okay.
One has to do with the mention of how many IPS schools don't have adequate library staff. because you raised that, and that's a key point, and it's so
Yes.
important for meeting the needs of so many minoritized children.
I don't have a number for you, but there are several that haven't had an operating library for several years. And we've gone in and weeded the collections there and to the bare bones, really. And then it's lovely, though, to have that $40,000 to be able to pour in to the school of really good, engaging books, and then for them to be able to keep up with more with the nonfiction research type stuff coming from the shared system.
Is there a process for leveraging more support for those schools?
I think that IPS is working on doing something like that, yeah.
The other had to do with two slides that were back-to-back. One of them had to do with the Indiana School for the Deaf.
Yes.
And I thought, oh, and then you connected it to Sora and the audiobooks.
Oh,
How do we
yeah.
meet the needs of Indiana School for the Deaf?
The Indiana School for the Deaf is a member of the shared system, and they have been, gosh, I think since the very beginning. So they use print materials
Yes.
for us, and they are heavy users as well. And they also use Sora. They're just getting started with Sora. They used Access 360. Many of their students have long bus rides, and so they need stuff to read on the bus. So they've really been promoting that.
The reason why I ask is because I directed the dissertation of the superintendent for the School for the
Oh.
Deaf. If there's any leveraging that we
Okay.
might want to use, because again, that's equity, just like the gentleman shared about the seniors. Sometimes we don't look at that equity of opportunity for underrepresented groups,
Yeah.
like those who are hearing
Yeah.
impaired. And so how we might leverage more of the resources with them and make sure that we can meet the needs of those who are oftentimes seen as marginalized
Yeah.
and we don't meet it. So
They
I'm
actually
so
have
glad
a
you did.
wonderful library that they've been, they have recently remodeled and revitalized. They have a wonderful librarian who is really reaching out to the students, so they're in great shape.
Is there anything at all that we need to share with them?
I don't know what
feel
it
like
would
it's
be. Yeah,
good?
I think things are going well.
Bases are covered.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I've been wanting to get with you, and Deb Lambert has said, let's get together. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And sharing. I know Stephen would like to make sure we present to IPS as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you, Ms. Beth.
Thank you.
Our shared collection truly advances the mission of the Indianapolis Public Library in a very real way for thousands of citizens across Indianapolis. Thank you for your leadership and your report. On to the next part of the agenda, which is public comment. The public has been invited to the board meeting to provide comment. We welcome feedback from the public about the Indianapolis libraries, and this is a time when the public may address the library board. If there are several individuals representing the same group, please select a spokesperson. Please do not repeat the same comments as someone else has offered. Please also note that this is time for public comment. It's not the appropriate forum for commenting on matters related to employee charges, employee complaints, or alleged employee misconduct. Any such matter should be brought promptly to the attention of the CEO or the Human Resources Department, where matters can be properly addressed in compliance with established library policies and procedures. A 5-minute limit will be allowed for each speaker. Each speaker should give their name if they are speaking on behalf of a group. All right, Ms. Gilbert, who do we have for public comment today?
First of all, we have Sam James and Beth Michael Torres.
All right, welcome.
Hello, thank you. My name is Sam James. My pronouns are they, them, and I've had the same library card for 24 years now. Love the library. I am here tonight because I heard that there was a proposal to limit public comment to 45 minutes at board meetings that was endorsed by current CEO Greg Hill. And I understand why that proposal would be endorsed. I have been at several board meetings over the last year or so, and I certainly have not enjoyed spending for almost 5 hours on occasion sitting here and listening to the public speak and listening to you guys do your work. But it does strike me that this proposal aims to fix a problem that the board created itself through its actions. Had this board done its job properly last year and hired the qualified CEO candidate, Nichelle Hayes, there would have been no 2.5-hour public comment sections. People wouldn't have turned out to protest the decisions of this board. You wouldn't have had to listen to us repeat the same things over and over and over and over and over again until you were finally allowed to leave. Instead, this board, certain members in particular, have made excuses, lied about and slandered Ms. Hayes' reputation, and refused to actually listen to and engage with members of the public, patrons, and library staff. So again, it doesn't surprise me that such a proposal would be endorsed by Mr. Hill or other board members. I'm actually a little bit surprised that it took this long for such a proposal to make its way to this board. It does concern me, though, that the board of a public institution would consider imposing further limits on how the public can engage with it. I have been here, again, several times over the past year, and I have heard it asked multiple times on multiple different occasions, what happens to the public comments that are submitted online ahead of time? I have heard it from members of the public, I have heard it from board members, and I have not heard an answer, let alone a satisfactory one. I haven't heard an attempt at an answer. Are those comments put online anywhere? I haven't seen them. I don't see them in the minutes when I look at the minutes on the website. Where did they go? It seems like they vanish into the ether. So between this board's failure to preserve the comments that are submitted online and the disdain that certain members of this board and the executive suite of the library have expressed towards members of the public who come out to speak, I cannot help but see any attempt at limiting public comment as an attempt at censorship. You may not be removing books from the shelves as they do up in Hamilton Southeast, but it is censorship nonetheless. And as I said, I am surprised that it took this long for such a proposal to be put in front of this board. And coming at a time where it seems like the public outcry has died down, it does make me wonder, what are you going to be in the news for next? What haven't you told us yet? That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Michael Torres.
Good evening, Board. My
Good
name is
evening.
Michael
Good evening.
Torres. I am president of Ask Me Local 3395, representing Indy Public Library workers. I'm going to congratulate, first of all, CFO Lolita Campbell and her team for getting our 2024 budget passed by the City County Council earlier this month. And you did it without public resistance. So, this evening, I'd like to ask about an update on the climate improvement process we conducted last year. I understand previous employee Anita Harden was charged with monitoring the action list and its progress, but it's been a while since we've heard anything about the study. So when I heard we were considering an additional study, I was surprised, since I don't think most of the staff know what was addressed and or what was completed in the previous one. I believe a major review of the action list and its progress should be done prior to any further studies being conducted, as well as accepting feedback from staff on how it went. You may learn from the feedback on the first study the need to dig deeper for other firms who have done these studies if you're considering the same firm. These concerns are tied to my repeated observance of $800,000 being allocated to such spots as snow removal, lawn and landscaping consultants, legal services due to price increase, repair and maintenance HVAC, repair and maintenance of structure, security, and miscellaneous in the July 2023 meeting, all which had surpluses at the end of 2022. In last week's HR committee, I did hear the discussion on security, which I now wonder if the $100,000 that was being allocated in the July meeting is in addition to the money that we will have left over once we do away with contractual security. I don't know if those two are related, so. Also in last week's committee meeting, your trustee bylaws were discussed, and unfortunately, I'm going to repeat something that's been said already in public, but this is from myself and staff concerns. And one of the items the attorney presented was lessening the time of individual public comment and an overall time that was suggested from library leadership. Lessening any public's access to addressing their taxpayer-funded institution is not a good idea because we are supported by tax dollars, so be prepared for public pushback. Lastly, I've been coming to these meetings for years, and public comment has never been an issue. And I feel you're addressing it now because the community has been giving feedback you may not have appreciated. I'm sure if comments were praising your leadership, and sometimes it does, the issue of limiting time would not be on your radar. As far as a reasonable time for board meetings overall, sure, we all have better things to do and we'd rather be doing, but no other municipal corporation or your appointing bodies like IPS and county commissioners have meeting time limits. So take time to really think about lessening the public's voice. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the public comment. Thank you all for your comments today. Moving on to the next item, which is approval of minutes. We have 4 meetings worth of minutes to approve today. The first meeting of which was an executive session held on September 25th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the executive session from September 25th, 2023?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, the minutes have been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Gilbert, can we have a call of the roll?
Yes, Mr. Biederman.
Approve?
Mr. Lane.
Approve.
Dr. Matata.
Abstain?
Dr. Palacio.
Approve.
Dr. Payne.
Approve.
Dr. White.
Approve.
All right, thank you. Motion carried. Moving on to the regular meeting of September 25th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held on September 25th, 2023?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. The minutes have been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Gilbert, can you call the roll?
Mr. Biederman.
Approve?
Mr. Lane.
Approve.
Dr. Matata.
Abstain?
Dr. Palacio.
Approve.
Dr. Payne.
Approve.
Dr. White.
Approve.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carried. Next is the executive session held on October 5th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the executive session held on October 5th, 2023?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, the minutes have been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Gilbert, can we have a call of the roll?
Mr. Biederman.
Approve?
Mr. Lane.
Approve.
Dr. Matata.
Abstain?
Dr. Palacio.
Approve.
Dr. Payne.
Approve.
And Dr. White.
Approve.
Thank you.
All right. I went over 5 minutes. I'm sorry. My time is up. All right, the motion carried. Moving on to the special meeting of October 5th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting held on October 5th, 2023?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, the minutes have been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Gilbert, can we have a call of the roll?
Mr. Biederman.
Approve?
Mr. Lane.
Approve.
Dr. Matata.
Abstain?
Dr. Palacio.
Approve.
Dr. Payne.
Approve.
And Dr. White.
Approve.
Thank you.
All right, the motion carried. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the committee reports. First up is the Finance Committee. Dr. Payne, you're the chair of the committee.
Nolita and Mary, would you please come up? And once again, you just are the stars of the show. We want to congratulate you again. That is no small feat, getting the budget passed. So thank you again for your hard work.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Marion and I are here to report the treasury report for the month ending September 2023. Before you, you have a copy of the PowerPoint. And on the second page is the revenue for September 2023. At this time, we're like 3/4 into our year, so we should try to meet 75% of our budget. As you can tell, for the revenue, we're at 63%. And that's right up under 75%, and that is because we only receive 80% of our revenue 2 times, with the second and the fourth quarter of the year. So we should receive more monies coming in November and December, and you'll see that number rise up. Our intergovernmental is 2% lower, but we're right on target for this year. And the charges for services, the public printing and fax revenue seems to be consistent monthly. And our miscellaneous portion of it, which is our interest revenue, on our investment report, which would be on page 47 of our treasury report on the online, you'll see that the Hoosier funds is 5.4% have earned that amount, and Trust Indiana at 5.34%. Now, one may ask, why don't we invest more money in these 2 funds? However, as you can see, if you look on the investment report or even on this second page, you'll see that our operating has to hold a certain amount of money to pay out our expenditures. So these other additional cash flow funds that we have, we able to allocate certain portions of it. And typically, like this time last year, I think we invested in, I think it was another fund. I think it was Fifth Third, was it? Well, another fund this time last year. We plan to, in November, invest some more money, either the Hoosier Fund or the Trust Indiana, when the monies come in, probably in November, probably $2 to $5 million to earn more interest. As you can tell, that right now we've earned $107,000 for this year, and that's 92% over than it was last year. And you can find our cash flow statement on page 45 of the Treasury report, and the detail of the revenue on page 42 of the income statement. And now I'm going to hand it over to, I'm sorry. On the next slide, you'll see another presentation of the revenue. One is the month to date, and the second one is the year to date. The year to date shows a great reflection, the blue column being the budget, and the orange column being the 2023 year to date revenue, and the gray column being the 2022 year to date revenue. As you can tell, that we're just right above the 2022 and at that 60% of the budget. Any questions on the revenue before I pass over to Mary Rankin? Mary will cover the
Sorry,
expense.
Dr. Platt.
Oh, I'm sorry. With me turning this way.
Oh, that's fine. So thanks for all the work you do. I always commend you on doing all this, not only passing the budget, but also the audit. But going back to the percentage, so I understand you have to have the funds segregated in different accounts. And you pointed out how we're taking advantage of the over 5% interest. The Hoosier Fund, the Trust Indiana, but then I see Chase at 3.6, Fifth Third Bank at 2.11, and U.S. Bank at 2.5. So is there any way that we can talk to the banks and tell them, hey, can you match?
And just to let
Can
you
you match the
know,
other banks?
yeah, Chase does not charge us any fees,
Okay.
and they handle our checking
Or operating.
or operating checking. Yeah.
So yes, our plans are to talk to the other banks, especially ones that are at the 2%, and see if they can match the others. If not, we can reallocate those funds to the ones that are at a high rate.
Yeah,
And so
that would
this
be
is the
great.
month that we'll start doing that.
Thank you. Yeah.
But just a comment, you're not autonomous to just do that as an entity. until certain other things are met, right?
Right. So we kind of monitor and maintain our budget, ensure that our cash flow is flowing.
Right. And then you have to have certain indicators before you can take the next step to invest more, seek additional interest, right?
Correct. And that's why we typically invest more around this time of the year. If you notice, last year we invested at that time.
So, just a clarification. What I'm saying is, even a savings account, can they switch it to higher interest? And so that's all. Sometimes they won't change it unless you talk to them.
Right.
So that's what
Yeah.
Well, I think
suggesting.
You have to go through that city process of getting the budget approved and all that stuff before you can do any of the rest. Is that right?
We have to go through a process,
Right.
and yeah.
So I agree with him 100%, but because we're not autonomous, we can't just jump out there and do that and get the full benefit of that sometime. I don't know.
Well, we do have to go through a process with the budget and everything, so we kind of monitor where the interest is at before we make a decision as far as where to allocate. And again, like this time, like last year, we made the investment. So probably we'll start, maybe starting a little early, but our budget typically don't get approved till like in October. So we kind of see where our cash flow will be. Yeah, it has to be consistent with our investment policy as well.
Because, like you said, you have to be consistent with your investment policy. But in a lot of autonomous organizations, they have investment type of committees, and they have vendors that compete for their business with a ensured almost return on investment. If it falls below that, they change who their vendors are.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't speculate that way. I think that's the reason for that, because we're 60% dependent on tax dollars. But we can't be making a mistake in investing that money.
Right, we got to be good stewards of our monies.
And I believe the Hoosier Fund and the Trust Indiana Fund are run by the Treasurer of State.
Yeah, they are.
That's right.
So they probably fall outside that scope where we're allowed to invest with them without doing a competition.
Right.
Any more questions on the revenue side? All right. Thank you.
Which button do you want to do? On the expenditure side, this is the operating fund. Personal services and benefits are well within the budget for the year, at 10% less than what we would have expected or planned for. But they are 2.2 million more than last year at this time. Supplies shifted this month and is slightly lower month to date and year to date in office supplies and cleaning and sanitation facility purchases. The other services and charges had a 9% increase over this time last year. It's still within budget. Year to date, legal is up and cleaning services. Capital outlay, year to date, is less than last year and is running in less than budget for the operating fund. And then we have the figures where the bar graph, and we did include the budget on here. I think that was in response to a comment last month from the board.
Yep.
And it shows, again, that September 2023 is in orange and blue is last year, and this is by category of expense. The budget is also shown there in gray.
So looks like on the month to date, the
I mean in
budget's for
blue.
the whole year. Right?
Yeah, the month to date, the budget is for the whole year. It didn't break down
Okay.
to the month. I tried, so.
It's okay.
But the year-to-date amount is a better, clear vision of where we
Yeah.
at.
I was going to say we spent a lot less.
Are there any questions?
Could you just say a little bit more about the 2.2 million?
On personal services and benefits?
Yes, please.
And that's more than last year, year-to-date. There were raises built into the budget for two parts, kind of the usual raise, plus there was a librarian salary study.
Yeah, and then
They
we also,
increased wages, and that's keeping competitive. That was back in January to spend that. And then we have the new branch opening. So additional people.
however, overall, we are 10% over the projected amount, so.
10% under.
Under, you're right, which is favorable. Yeah. Any other questions?
I think our health insurance stayed pretty stable. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. So at this point, I'd ask for a motion to accept the report of the treasurer for September 2023 for filing for audit.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, Ms. Gilbert, can we have a call of the roll?
Mr. Biederman,
Approve?
Mr. Lane,
Approve.
Dr. Batata,
Approved.
Dr. Palacio,
Approve.
Dr. Payne. Approve. And Dr. White.
Approve.
Thank you.
Motion carried. So we have three resolutions for today, two of which had changes which were passed out in front of you. The first of the three is still in the enclosed packet, but 67 and 68-2023 were both passed out for us to have today. My understanding is that all three of these resolutions passed out of committee, and so we'll be having a second on them and then a vote.
Yes, correct. So, Resolution 66-2023, this is a transfer between classifications and accounts. The transfer is in the operating fund, is to move funds from Character 1 and Character 2 to Character 2 and Character 3. The funds being transferred from Character 1 to Character 2 will be purchased supplies for Library Annual Staff Day, will be held on November the 6th, 2023. Funds being transferred from Character 2 to Character 3 will be used to cover freight and express expenses through the rest of the year, as well as upgrade the digital storage space for Digital Indy. So on the second page of the resolution, you'll see the amount for, first one is $8,000 coming on wellness to be transferred into Department of Office Supplies for the staff day, and the library supplies in amount of $11,200 being transferred for a freight expense, as well as storage space digital. And this was approved in the Finance Committee.
All right, since this was approved from the Finance Committee, we are looking for a second.
Second.
Great, thank you, Dr. Murtada. Any discussion on this resolution?
I have a question about Digital Indie, like the storage space. Maybe Deb could speak to this, but I understand as more materials are ingested into Digital Indie, that costs will go up. So this will be an increase that's budgeted for 2024.
Correct.
It increases every couple of years.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is the increase for 2024.
Okay. Got you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I actually I messed up, so I'm sorry. We need a motion for this one.
So moved.
Thank you. Motion, second, third, we're good. All right, any more discussion? Okay, Ms. Gilbert, can we have a call of the roll?
Yes, Mr. Biederman,
Approve?
Mr. Lane,
Approve?
Dr. Matata,
Approved.
Dr. Palacio,
Approve.
Dr. Payne,
Approve.
and Dr. White.
Approve.
Thank you.
All right, the motion carried. Let's move on to Resolution 67-2023, which was handed out right before the meeting.
Yes, I'd like to invite Deb Lambert up.
Welcome.
I feel like we're tagging Mary out.
I know.
So I'm here to talk about two resolutions for electronic products for our virtual library. The first one is Resolution 67-2023 for our e-magazine subscription renewal. It's $80,000 and has not increased in a couple of years. And as the physical magazine subscriptions decline and go to virtual only, this is an important service for us to continue to provide magazines to our community. And usage of that continues to increase. We saw an increase of 5% over 2022 so far this year. And this service is through Overdrive. And they've recently made some updates in how magazines are handled in the Libby app, where when you subscribe to a particular magazine, when the new magazine issue comes out, you get an alert right up front in the Libby app. So we anticipate that it's going to continue to increase at an even greater pace. This collection is diverse with many different languages in this collection, and it's a subscription service for a whole set of magazines, which I'm trying to see if I have that in there, of how many subscriptions total is in this package, which I don't see that in here. But it's, oh, here we go, 5,000 plus titles in this subscription package. Are there any questions?
Dr. Flasher?
So, Deb, if you can just talk a little bit about the Indianapolis Recorder situation and how we're handling that?
It's actually the Indianapolis Monthly magazine, I think you're referring to.
Maybe.
And the Indianapolis Monthly used to be covered in this package, but the rights to that were bought out by a competing vendor, EBSCO, and we do have their Flipster service as well. So we continue to get the Indianapolis Monthly. There was a pause in the service while we, picked up the new subscription, but it had to do with the publisher selling their rights, retracting them from one and selling them to another.
Thanks for the clarification. We just want to make sure that everybody knows that we're keeping the service.
Yes, Indianapolis Monthly is an important subscription for us.
Thank you.
We had a patron comment about technology and, the move from like physical material to digital. What kind of training is available for patrons who come in to learn how to use this technology? And is there, I'm thinking, ways that patrons can check out the technology if they don't have it at home?
Okay, a couple of questions there.
Yeah.
Our e-resource librarian, Darlene Fox, is the one who manages the subscription, provides technical support, and provides training to librarians system-wide on all of our electronic resources, including Libby. All of our branch librarians are trained on Libby and can help patrons who need help in using those. And they have the ability to go to training throughout the year, all year long, or reach out to Darlene, who specializes in support for our e-resources. The second question was, can you repeat that for me?
If there was technology available for patrons to check out, like in my neighborhood in Hallville, the annual income is about $22K a year.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of this tech is they can't get to it. They don't have access. So is the public library thinking about that or providing any of the tech that patrons can check out?
The library does provide a Chromebook and hotspot program where they would be able to access our e-books and e-magazines through that service. And I believe the branches also provide help and assistance with using that technology.
And do we know how many are available for checkout in terms of the Chromebooks?
That would be a great question for Mackenzie.
Sorry.
Who was the...
I don't have that current number on hand.
That's okay. Okay. Thank you. Just curious.
Mackenzie used to manage that program before her current
Sure.
role.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you. Those were great. All right. Hearing none, I guess I need a motion now, so don't mess that up.
So moved.
All right. Can I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. Can we have a call of the roll, Ms. Gilbert, for
Yes.
Resolution
Mr.
68? Approve?
Mr. Lane?
Approve?
Dr. Martada?
Approved.
Dr. Palacio?
Approve.
Dr. Payne? Approved. And Dr. White?
Approved.
Thank you.
Great. So resolution, motion carried. Now on to, looks like 68-2023.
Resolution 68, 2023 for Data Axle Reference Solution Subscription Database, formerly known as Reference USA. This is a reference database that we've had for 20-plus years. And they recently changed their branding and their name a couple of years ago, which Data Axle is still, it's kind of like calling X Twitter still. It's hard to let go of that old name, right? So this is a tool for library staff to provide reference information and for businesses to research business communities, not just in the state, but around the country. And it is a very well-used service and continues to, do well in number of searches and retrievals, which we have noted that in 2023 year-to-date, we've had about 21,000 searches and about 880,000 retrievals, meaning that of the searches and the results they get, they've looked at 880,000 of those retrievals. And we acquired this database through the Midwest Consortium Library Services at a 20% discount, which is a significant amount for a $58,534 database, which has stayed the same for several years. There's been no increase in the cost for this database either, since 2017, actually. It provides access to U.S. and Canadian business research modules for businesses, white pages, healthcare, consumer lifestyles, jobs, and internships, new businesses, new movers, homeowners, and historical businesses. Are there any questions about that?
All right. With no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
All right. So there's a motion for us to approve Resolution 68-2023. Is there a second? All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Gilbert, can we have a call of the roll?
Mr. Biederman?
Approve?
Mr. Lane?
Approve?
Dr. Martada?
Approved.
Dr. Palacio?
Approve.
Dr. Payne? Approved. And Dr. White?
Approved.
Thank you. The motion is carried. Does that conclude the financial report for today?
I do have these updates, so I'd like
Great.
to.
There we go. We got more. Even better.
Just a few updates. The 2024 budget, as stated earlier, was approved on October the 16th by the City County Council. And then also, within the last couple of weeks, we received a Moody assigned a AA1 to NDPL doing our bonds purchase, selling of our bonds, which that is the second highest rating that you can receive. And then we also received a bid for our bonds on October the 17th with a good faith deposit on October the 18th. So we making progress.
Great. Wonderful updates.
Thanks. That concludes the.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, item 7, which is the Diversity Policy and Human Resources Committee, which I'm the chair of. So just no resolutions at this meeting. The last meeting, just to provide an update from that meeting, we discussed the CEO evaluation process, and a communication went out to the board with a set of proposed questions from the third-party consultant. We're looking for just any comments or responses on those. And then we will get those questions put together and at the next meeting, have the process by which everyone will provide that feedback, and then we'll have the evaluation. Secondly, we did discuss, as was discussed in the public comment, proposed revisions to the bylaws. This is something that occurs on an annual basis. So this isn't something out of the blue. This is at our annual meeting, which is next month. We make any changes to the bylaws that may occur. Those have all been redlined and provided to you. So please review those, provide any comments to the committee before the next committee meeting so we can discuss them again. So thank you very much. I'll entertain any questions from the board for that. Okay, hearing none, let's move on to the Facilities Committee.
Facilities Committee had no resolution to bring before you last time, but today we didn't want to disappoint you. So Adam, come forward.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, we have 4 resolutions, and I'm going to look at the PowerPoint on my phone so I don't strain my neck. The first 2 resolutions are actually sister resolutions. They are for, respectively, 69-2023 and 70-2023, which are for replacement of the exterior windows at Nora and Pike, respectively. Both of those branches have planned renovations starting early next year, which will take up the bulk of next year. That is a separate project. During the design and overall discussions, it was realized that the renovations were mostly, it wasn't realized during design discussions, but the renovations are planned to be an internal focus. However, there are some mechanical upgrades, specifically mechanical upgrades, and after reviewing the building, it was realized that the windows are old and leaky and inefficient. And so it would be kind of putting spats on a pig to put brand new HVAC into a building with old leaky windows from the 70s. And so these 2 resolutions are to award replacement of those exterior windows, so the upcoming renovation will have a bigger impact.
What were you going to put on the pig, Adam?
Spats.
Oh, I thought lipstick. Okay, go on.
Okay. So the next slide. The impact, strategic or fiscal impact. The 2 award, Nora was about just under $170,000. Pike was just above $199,000. The combined value of these are $369,024, which is just under the $375,854 that were budgeted for the combined projects. So we are within budget. These will be funded via the 2019 bond. For DEI impact, the vendor is not a city certified XBE, and they will be self-performing 99 point something% of the work. There was a veteran-owned business that they were able to reach out to for waste hauling. Unfortunately, the dollar amount of that was less than 1%, and so they did not meet the XBE criteria. All right, the next slide, we used an invitation to quote process. We reached out to 26 vendors, half of which were XBE vendors, and 2 business organizations. We had a pre-quote conference, and we received 1 quote from Holiday Construction Group. We received 1 quote for Nora and 1 quote for Pike. And they were found to be acceptable within budget, and we recommend award to this contractor for both projects. Project completion date is targeted for December 31. That would be in time for the renovation to start in earnest come the new year. Any questions?
Mr. Chair,
yes,
because we are going to use the same contractor for both projects, we're recommending that the committee wants you to do pass and putting these 2 together, 69.2023 and 70.2023.
Great. Do we consent to consider these resolutions together? We can have a voice vote for that. You can say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Sounds like we have consent there. So we will consider both Resolution 69-2023 and 70-2023 together. Do I have a motion to approve both of these resolutions?
So move.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, did you say that these, that they met the requirements for veteran? You said veteran, I heard that.
They did not meet any of the requirements, any of the 4 XBE requirements. They reached out to one company that was a waste hauling company that was certified as a veteran-owned business entity. However, the cash value or the financial value of the waste hauling of this overall project is less than 1%, so they did not meet the VBE requirement as set forth by the program. And so, no, they do not meet any of the XBE requirements, or XBE goals, I should say, XBE goals.
That's not a good thing.
No.
Want to explain the rest of that?
Yeah, I mean, overall, my department has met or exceeded all 4 of them individually. We've between 40 and 44% of all of our dollars go to XBE companies. We've worked very closely with purchasing to reach out to XBE companies. As you can see, fully half of the vendors that we've reached out to, 13 of the 26, were XBE vendors. Unfortunately, for various reasons across the board, both XBE and non-XBE vendors decided that they did not want to submit a quote for this project. We only received one response from one bidder for each of these, and they were found to be acceptable. And since it was acceptable, unless we start over and we reject all proposals or all submissions, we're required to accept the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. Holiday was evaluated and found to be responsive and responsible, and as they were the only bidder, we accepted their proposal.
So you use this website to solicit bids, correct? It's like a website.
Which website?
That's what I'm asking. Do you use isn't there a website that you put the bids onto? Is that correct? Or how do you solicit bids?
Yeah, so we email vendors directly. To get the list of vendors, we contact Gwen Simmons, who's our manager of supplier diversity and purchasing. So she maintains or keeps up to date on the updated city certified XBE vendor list. And we rely on her to provide us the vendor lists, specifically for XBEs. Facilities keeps a secondary list of vendors that we may have heard about during our daily job responsibilities. I'd say 90+% of the time, if we have a new vendor, we send it to Gwen and she adds it to the list anyways. So we email the vendors directly. These 2 business development organizations, simplified version is they're an equivalent of a chamber of commerce. And they, if we have an electrical job, there's an electrical business group. If we have a mechanical job, there's a mechanical business group. And then we also host this on our own website. And so there are multiple ways, proactive, reaching out, and then passive. We put it on our website. It pops up in Google. Companies beyond the 26 that we solicit directly search daily. I know because I've been on the other side in the private sector, and that was part of my job, was to search for RFPs. And so there are companies that find us from California that would want to submit a bid, mostly for supply of products, not services. So that's just a combination of how we reach out.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Gilbert, can we have a call of the roll?
Yes, Mr. Biederman.
Approve?
Mr. Lane.
No.
Dr. Matada.
No.
Dr. Palacio.
Approve.
Dr. Payne.
No.
And Dr. White.
Approve.
Yep, so 69 and 70 do not pass. All right, we will move on to 71.
Mr. Biederman,
Yes,
we do have, Adam submitted some changes to
Great.
the board action request and resolution for 71.
great. Can we pass those out?
While those are being passed out, I wanted to give the board an FYI that this needed to be done before the renovation. So the renovation schedule is now pushed back probably by 2 or more months. So I wanted to let the arms know that, and so they can relay that to their staff. I'll send out something, and we can work with the contractor and the architect to get a revised schedule now that the windows will not be replaced.
Thank
Or
you.
at least will not be replaced this year.
Maybe we, Mr. Chairman, maybe we didn't do a good job explaining the need for expediency on this. Because initially, this was going to be in the renovation. But because of the immediate needs they had, we decided to bring this for you so we can get it out of the way. Now, if it waits until you get to the major project, then that's a whole different set of circumstances. This way, you get this part of the project done and out of the way, plus you meet the need because they're old, they're inefficient. So I don't know whether we did a good job of explaining that to you, but if the diversity and inclusion and the diversity vendors and what have you had ample opportunities to apply, and we really only got one legitimate application from that, I think the board can't save them from themselves. I think we need to look at this for the benefit of the board and the library system, right? Because that's what we're dealing with. We're not dealing
Mr. Chair,
politics.
we've already had discussion and we already voted. Can we please move on?
So I,
No, the day that we had this, Dr. McCullough was not at the meeting. Only you and I were at the meeting.
right, so I believe under Robert's Rules of Order, and Robert could tell me because they're your rules of order. There'd be a motion for reconsideration, but I believe that can only be brought by someone who voted to not pass the motion. So do any of the trustees that voted to not pass the motion move?
Just a point of personal privilege.
Granted.
So I just wanted to know, why do we have to push back the HVAC and other renovations? If the windows are leaky, then let them be leaky until we can solve the situation. That's my understanding. It's not going to be as efficient, yes, but why do we have to push back another project? Because then that complicates things. I see that complicating a lot of things, including financials.
Sure. So I would say this, putting the windows in afterward would be kind of like closing the barn door after the horse is out. Yes, it may be a bit less efficient, but honestly, I would prefer to do it in the proper procedure than do it opposite. So that's just me. Technically, yes, in an imperfect process, theoretically, we could maintain the overall renovation project schedule. But I need to double check with the architect to see if there was anything that is along the critical path that this window project addresses that is along the critical path of the overall renovation project. So I can get back to you by the next facilities committee on that. If I could ask a question, not so much about this past resolution, but since it did not pass, I'll need to re-advertise. In the future, what would change this from a not pass to a pass? What is the board looking for from this particular project or these two particular projects? What criteria would be used to change a no to a yes that I can meet in the future?
I would say our strategic plan, where there is the part in there on racial equity especially with our business partners.
Okay. I'm sorry, but that's a little vague. So what actions would you like to see from me or my department?
So,
It's not your role.
That's not my role to tell you how to do your job. I'm just saying follow the strategic plan.
But, okay, if you could point to, Robert, you have a question.
Under the public purchasing provisions, the laws, in your public bidding process, you are obligated to select the lowest responsible and responsive bidder or quoter. So that kind of rules the day
Yes.
on your selection.
And so when you mentioned the strategic plan, yes, it's my responsibility to run my department, but it's the board's responsibility to create and approve the strategic plan. And so which part of the strategic plan would you like me to follow? The portion on racial equity, but what quantification would change a no from a yes? I don't know where I failed, and I would like you to help me understand.
I'd ask that this get moved to committee so we can move on with the business of the day.
Okay, great.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to Resolution 71-2023.
All right, 71-2023 is approval to amend a services contract for the planning, programming, and design services for the Learning Curve at Central Library renovation. KRM Plus Architecture was awarded the initial contract for design services for the Learning Curve renovation back in May of 2022. The initial scope of the project was all of the Learning Curve and nothing else. It was all of floor 2 and part of floor 3 East, which is mostly the teen section of the Learning Curve. As we went through the design and specification phase, we realized that just doing a once over on the Learning Curve, a small refresh would not meet the goals or needs of both the library and our patrons, and so the project was expanded to include all of floor 2 and all of floor 3. I have explained which areas are moving to where, in both, I think, definitely committee and I think full board. So as that project expanded, KRM's design services expanded, and hence their cost expanded. So their initial design fee was $500,000, and on the next slide, their design fee now for the expanded scope is $591,000 plus up to $14,000 for reimbursable expenses. And so this is a request to amend their contract for an increase of $91,000 plus up to $14,000 for reimbursable expenses. Any questions?
There was, I remember bringing this up in committee, that there was a concern about storage, and I collected a little information from Learning Curve staff, and they brought up the same concern without even me prompting them.
Okay.
That there's an issue with storage, and I don't know if there's a way for KRM to look further into the storage issue, because I think right now, the staff, from the plans, the staff are going to be moved from the first floor up to the second floor, correct? That's where the officers will be?
Yeah, some staff will be moved up from 1 to 2, 1 to 2 or 1 to 3?
1 to 2. And then there's the storage that's in the basement, so then they would have to go from 1, or from 2 down to 1, then back up to 2, to do their activities with the children. They were thinking that was going to be a lot of, kind of lost time and things like that. So I don't know if we can talk to KRM about that, or...
Yeah, if you're available, we have a meeting with them. We have a project team meeting 2:30 on Wednesday for 2 hours. It's in the Goodrich Hauk room, and we can address storage at that time.
So I'm not available, but I would maybe suggest the supervisor of the Learning Curve being present at that meeting.
Yep, Shelley's there. Great. And Brandy, and Shale.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, I see over $105,000 more for this. And I'm trying to understand where the justification is I understand that the initial budgeted amount was 500,000. And I remember that being discussed. The costs will be funded through our bond issue. I remember Lolita talking about the bond issue, that it was approved. Is that correct, Lolita? And $105,000 more. Can you tell us just a little bit more about how the $105,000 more is to be appropriated? I see reimbursable expenses as the chief executive officer deems necessary. Can you explain $105,000 more, please?
Sure. The project was originally 1 floor and 1/4 of a floor. It is now 2 full floors, so that's about a 65 to 70% increase in square footage. KRM is asking for a 20% increase in their fees, and so the cost per square foot of the project is actually less than what they initially said, and so I think it's acceptable increase in cost given the increase in scope.
Thank you. I do have a problem with, and as the chief executive officer deems necessary or advisable. Why is that language included?
I'm going to defer to Robert.
That's related to the amendment to the contract, to make such amendments, because we made you reference both the fact that the scope has changed in addition to the additional increase in fees, not to exceed this amount that's in the resolution.
Thank you.
Any other
Thank you.
questions? All right. Hearing no other questions, I entertain a motion for Resolution 71-2023.
So moved.
All right, it's been moved to approve Resolution 71-2023. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Gilbert, can we have a call of the roll?
Mr. Biederman?
Approve?
Mr. Lane?
No.
Dr. Matada?
Approved.
Dr. Palacio?
Approve?
Dr. Payne?
Approve.
And Dr. White?
Approve.
Thank you.
Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to Resolution 72-2023.
So Resolution 72-2023 is approval to award a construction manager as constructor services contract for the Learning Curve at Central Library renovation project. So KRM Plus is the architectural firm that has designed most of the layout right now, and they're starting to finalize overall floor layouts. The construction manager as constructor is a bit different than the design bid build process, which most of us are used to. Construction manager, CMC, also known as a construction manager at risk, is a construction manager who is A, ultimately responsible for the construction and completion of the project, and B, is brought in earlier in the design phase so they can assist with the design with their construction experience, so we can get a more refined, streamlined design bidding process with the CMC integrated earlier in the process. So unfortunately, I had purchasing and impact. Well, no, they're in the right spot. Overall impact, the cost of a CMC, the one proposal that we received was $454,000, which will come out of the overall project cost of $6.2 million. This is funded via the 2023A bond fund. The single vendor that was submitted was not a city certified XBE and will self-perform 100% of the work as CMC. So the next slide, purchasing, we used the request for proposal process. Public notice went out, sent to 37 vendors, 15 of whom were XBEs, and 10 business development organizations. Held a pre-proposal conference. We received one, and that was from Stens Corporation. We reviewed it along with KRM Plus, and they were found to submit an acceptable proposal, and we would like to award it the CMC award to Stens. Last slide is the estimated schedule. These are not start dates, these are end dates of the various phases. So the final phase will be complete in Q1 2026, and Mr. Hill, I apologize. That is a bit later, but I just got back from vacation today and got an updated schedule. So want to let you know that. So Q1 2026 is when the curve will be 100% complete. We are doing this in phases to keep the curve and the other areas on floor 3, which are currently occupied by floor 3, as open as possible and accessible to our patrons for as long as possible, as much as possible during construction. So any questions about the CMC?
So just so I understand the process a little better, you solicited bids, you received one bid in response, and you picked the lowest responsive and responsible bidder for the project.
Yeah, so this was a request for proposal, which is a bit different than a request or invitation to bid. So invitation to quote and invitation for bid are used for constructions contracts, and there we are required to select the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. For services contracts, of which this is a service, architectural design, stuff like that, we use a request for proposal in which we are not required to choose the lowest and lowest responsive and responsible. We are not required to choose anything. It is, and Robert, please correct me if I'm wrong in saying any of this, but as I understand it, it is up to the soliciting organization, NDPL, to choose the proposal which is the best fit among a number of criteria. Cost, XBE utilization, can they do the job, speed at which they can do the job.
Can you include attributes in your RFP documentation?
Yes.
For what you're basing your review on? So
Yes.
Financial strength.
Yes.
Recommendations.
History, yeah, prior customer client satisfaction.
Great. And so with regard to this specific proposal, there were potential for 37 people to submit the RFP, and you received one?
We actively sent out the RFP to 37 vendors. The 10 business organizations, and I don't know how many people downloaded the RFP from our website, but at minimum, 37 different companies knew about this RFP, yes.
And we received one response?
We received one.
And that's the response that's on this?
Yes, yeah. Stens we've worked with Stens before. They're local. They know the city, they know the library, they know the vendors. And KRM was consulted as well, since they are our architect. They agreed that Stens would be able to perform, and we agreed that the price was acceptable given their performance and what we've asked of them.
Great. Any additional questions?
So, question. So if this vote turns out to be the same as last one because of the same issue, what is the impact? Since last time you didn't have opportunity to illustrate the impact of not approving this.
What that impacts is this will definitely push back the schedule by several months. So the CMC is an integral part of the overall project process. It isn't just, do we install HVAC or windows first? So this might push it back anywhere between 3 and 6 months, depending on a few things. You know, we were hoping to get a few other, we wanted to get more companies. The feedback was pipelines were full. It was either pipelines are full or they don't want to do renovations, they want new construction. The price was too low. $500,000 is, to be blunt, a pittance to some companies that do $100 million buildings. So I'm not sure if the result was a no, what the delay would be.
I don't know if you or Lolita can answer this, but what would be the impact on the bond?
I think minimal to none. We have 5 years to spend it, so for the bond's sake, a 6-month delay would not impact anything.
We have to spend $1 in the first.
You do have to spend a certain percentage of the bond proceeds within
The first year.
the first year.
Yes, and KRM's contract is part of it. And so we've been spending that out of another source, which will be reimbursed by this 2023 bond, and that reimbursement will meet the percentage required for year one.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, as chair of the Facilities Committee, I want to withdraw action on this particular item until our next meeting.
All right. We will do that. We'll withdraw action on the item. Thank you. Any other business from the Facilities Committee? All right, there's none. Thank you very much, Mr. Parsons. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the Library Foundation update. I won't take a whole lot of time with this one. This is 2023 update. Big thing, the McFadden Memorial Lecture occurred. We want to thank all the staff that were involved with that. Big successful event. I don't know if anyone from the board was able to attend, but it was a very successful event. Library trustee Stephen Lane is mentioned 5 times in this update, so thank you very much for all your work with regard to the Lillian Childress Hall presentation that you did for the scholarship. Also, thank you to Dr. Murtada for having the idea. It was really great. Thank you to all the library trustees who have 100% committed to supporting the project financially. So it's a big day for that. And Mr. Lane, did you want to just say a couple of words about what this project is?
Oh, yeah. So thank you, Mr. Chair. The Lillian Childress Hall scholarship was in partnership with the Indianapolis Public Library Foundation, and we will be providing scholarships to library science students from marginalized backgrounds so that we can increase our numbers within the profession. Currently, Black librarians are 7% of our profession, so we would love to see those numbers go up, of course. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Also, thank you to the 98 donors who made gifts last month, including the Indianapolis Foundation Library Fund and McAllister Machinery. This month, the foundation was proud to provide more than $145,000 to the library. This included Chromebook lending, bunny bag books and supplies, and Fall Fest 2023 Slamming Rhymes Challenge 17. Sorry, it was in Roman numerals. It takes me a minute. All right, so that's it for that update. Let's move on to the report of the CEO.
All right, thank you. Resolution 73-2023 is the monthly confirmatory resolution regarding to financial, travel, and personal matters that occurs each and every month. It's in the standard typical format. I ask that you approve the resolution 73-2023.
Is there a motion to approve Resolution 73-2023 regarding finances, personnel, and travel?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it has been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I just have a question about for the travel piece. It's a lot of folks going out for training, which is great. Can you explain the process for a staff requesting to go to something like the Indiana Library Foundation annual and how those get approved?
So they are submitted through their department. Once they're submitted through their department and approved, then they come up through us, through the executive team, and then they're paid and they're submitted.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Gilbert, can we have a call of the roll?
Mr. Biederman?
Approve?
Mr. Lane?
Approve?
Dr. Murtada?
Approved.
Dr. Palacio?
Approve.
Dr. Payne?
Approved.
And Dr. White?
Approved.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Continuing on with the CEO.
All right, I'll continue. I'm gonna do a quick presentation for adult and juvenile programs. The first. Okay, all right, thank you. First is system-wide communications. We had our town hall meeting on September the 20th. We had 186 people in attendance. The next town hall is scheduled for November and we will continue to do those every other month for the foreseeable future. Also, branch staff meetings. I have one branch staff meeting left, which is the Garfield Park branch. So I visit all 24 locations. And then next on the schedule will be the support departments, which I will visit each one of those branches as well. Also, our executive committee liaison visits, we finished the quarter in September. Each EC member again is assigned 3 locations, including support department and branches. We make visits, so we're working on our summary of our visits for the first 3 meetings. Next slide, please. Some of the juvenile programming that we had were the interactive story time, captivating carnivorous plants, character clubhouse design, team bookmaking, and team build it. So for the interactive story times, we partnered with Arts for Learning, Melissa Gallant. She presented songs and stories with her harp. And then in the food class for preschoolers, parents loved that their kids tried new foods and were grateful for the book that they got to take home. Captivating carnivorous plants, children had a chance to learn how to plant and grow and how plants adapt to their environment through several hands-on activities. The character clubhouse design, we partnered with Next Great Architects, a teaching studio that introduces architecture to children. In this hands-on workshop, children were able to apply what they learned, their imagination and creativity, by building a model clubhouse for their favorite storybook characters. Team Build It programs where teens learned to assemble craft boards and how to safely use power tools. And then the teen bookmarking program, they created bookmarks entirely and books entirely from scratch in this program. Next slide. The adult, again, this was mentioned by the foundation portion. September marked our 44th annual Marion McFadden Memorial Lecture, which featured Sylvia Marino Garcia. It was very well attended. We had more than 200 patrons in attendance, and it was greatly appreciated. Hispanic Heritage Month, we did some outreach. Outreach included Indy 11 Hispanic Heritage Night. We had a Hispanic Heritage celebration with the mayor's office. Also, a Rice and Beans Festival at Fonseca Theater. And then we gave out approximately 143 bilingual Spanish and English books across those events. Our English conversation circles, in September we added 2 new branches, Lawrence and Southport. Previously we just had it at Central and online. In the English conversation circles, they get to practice speaking, and approximately 85 patrons benefited from conversation circles. Our small business series, which is held at the Central Library, we hosted 6 programs, 192 patrons participated. A couple of the programs included Reach Your Target Customer, Creating a Marketing Plan for Your Business, and Don't Fear the Spreadsheet, Financial Statements and Your Small Business. Next slide. Most of this has already been mentioned, but we had our budget presentation in September. Our budget passed unanimously on October 16th. We had our bond rating. We did preparations, Lolita and I. Thank you, Lolita, again, for all your hard work. I really appreciate it. And as Lolita mentioned, we had a AA+1 rating. We also gave a brief presentation to the City County Council Majority Caucus in October, or actually that was in September. And then, as Stephen mentioned in the foundation, we've been working with the Lilly and Children's Hall Advisory Committee. I think we've had 2 meetings. So thank you, Dr. Matata, for your suggestion, and thank you, Stephen, for the presentation that you gave at ISCR. And I appreciate it. Thank you. Any questions? All right, if nobody has any further questions, there's another presentation, the Career Development Program by Peggy Ware and Elizabeth Shoto, Area Resource Manager.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Biederman,
Good evening.
members of the board.
Good evening.
Good evening. Today, we're going to talk about the Career Development Program. So the Career Development Program developed from the need for succession planning. So during the pandemic, interim staff were used to plug gaps in branch coverage. Due to the positive experience people had serving as interim, the ARMS group put out a call for people interested in interim opportunities in July of 2021. They created guidelines, and the ARMS group had brief conversations with staff to learn about their interests and what kind of challenge they might be ready for, and created the interim bank, and this program was known as Career Conversations. So these career conversations led to a more formal process called the Career Development Program, which officially began in March of 2022. Former Chief Public Services Officer and current CEO Gregory Hill and the ARMS Group created the Career Development Guidelines, which staff can find on the intranet page under the Human Resources tab. The purpose of the Career Development Program, or CDP, is that it is designed to prepare staff for career development and leadership positions within the Indianapolis Public Library, and is the primary method to ensure staff receives necessary guidance to make informed career decisions based on NDPL policies, programs, and procedures, and everyone's talent and experience. A panel of experienced leaders serves as a pivotal role by providing individualized assistance to interested employees. So the members of the Career Development Program are the Chief Public Service Officers, the ARMS Group, and it's augmented by branch managers, supervisors, public service managers, and the manager of circulation. We invite members of the different departments to participate on the panel, depending on what the participants are looking for and what they want to learn. So under the guidelines, individuals can either self-nominate or they can be recommended for the program by either their resource manager, their manager, or supervisor. If there are more than 14 participants who sign up for each session, they are put on the wait list and are added to the next session. So in order to take part in the CDP, participants agreed to complete the Career Development Interest Form and IDP, which is an individual development plan, prior to their meeting. These documents are sent out prior to the meeting and reviewed by the Chief Public Services Officer and ARMS to make sure they have all the information needed for the discussion. The next slide is the form that we send out. That's the IDP. This form includes just their name, current location, their goal statement, knowledge and competencies of what they currently know, and activities to reach their goals in their goal statement, and how they will measure success. They also have to have a beginning and end point. So it only lasts for approximately 6 months. So each staff member is assigned a 1-hour time slot to speak with the CPSO and members of the ARMS group, or guest panelists, depending on the interest of the participant. During the initial meeting, a panel of 3 or 4 will have just a conversation with the staff member. They talk about their goals and interests. The ARMS take notes and suggestions are shared with the participant. Following the meeting, the participants will be assigned to a member of the panel to follow up so that they can help facilitate and help them reach their goals. So there's goals and benefits to this program. So it enhances career readiness, encourages upward mobility, improves job satisfaction, and ensures staff retention of NDPL's best employees. So how do we know if the program is meeting these goals? We designed it to utilize SMART goals to ensure that participant goals are measurable. So if anyone is not aware, SMART goals are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and trackable. Okay. Now Liz is going to take over.
Okay. The Career Development Program has been meeting in the spring and the fall, and it started back in March of 2022. Each session, so both in the spring and the fall, there are 14 participants. The next session is actually coming up on November 9th. And we are working, we've sent out forms, we're waiting to get stuff back from people. So we asked participants about their job status, and 64% of the participants were looking for a change in their current role. So, you know, they'd been doing what they were doing for a while, and they wanted to move to a different job, and that could either be a lateral move or an upward move. 25% of the participants wanted to continue to develop in their current role, you know, get some additional skills. See what it was like at a different size branch or something like that. And 11% of the participants were actually new to their role, and so they obviously wanted to continue to learn more in their current role. We found that what participants liked best about the program, almost half of them just liked the program itself. 40% said they liked meeting new staff and administration and having that one-on-one time with, you know, some people higher up in the organization. 8% said they liked the format, and 3% said other. Not sure what the other is. Participants were then asked how likely they would be to recommend the program to another staff member. We're very pleasantly pleased that 76% said they were very likely to recommend this program to another staff member. 21% said they were somewhat likely, and 3% said they were neither likely nor unlikely to recommend the program. Participants were asked how satisfied they were with their CDP experience. 78% of the participants were very satisfied with their experience. 19% were somewhat satisfied, and again, 3% neither satisfied nor unsatisfied. I'm not sure. We get a lot of comments from the participants. I won't read these all, especially considering the time, but I'll read a couple. One person said they liked how proactive everyone was in connecting with me, not me, this is someone else, with me and people and resources to help me get to the goals on my sheet, and how communicative everyone has been. Like the follow-up, as Peggy said, you know, they get assigned a member of their panel, and, you know, that's their go-to person. I appreciate that this program is geared towards helping staff achieve their professional goals and pairs them up with an individual who can help them focus on achieving such goals. I enjoyed the professional yet relaxed format that the initial meeting, which took place at LSC. It really took the pressure off discussing my plans and future with NDPL. It is a very relaxed. We tell people right from the get-go, you know, this isn't an interview. This is just a conversation. Any questions for me or Peggy?
Just want to thank you so very much. What's amazing is it's right in line with the latest issue of the Public Library's publication. It talks about leadership and how do you cultivate it. Transforming leaderships. How are you breaking out the data that also speaks to issues of diversity? That's the only thing.
Well, I would say we need to work on that. Yeah.
Okay.
So we will add that to the next one.
It's a good goal.
Because it's a good thing, yes. Yes, it is.
In the latest issue of the Public Libraries, it says transforming libraries with inclusive leadership. And I know you well enough. We've worked together. We've been together. I mean, the arms are to also be highly commended for this work, where you're taking the time to put together a program and to think about how do you create an environment where people do feel welcomed And that's exactly what you've done. So thank you very much. And looking forward to how more people in new roles are looking for change and changes in roles. That's what this is so exciting, and how you respond to the adults who really want to have this opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. This is a great program. When you start to open opportunities for people who have the skills, but not the paper, what do you do? Because quite frankly, you will find some people in the library who are very bright. They've worked several jobs, and they can do them better than people with degrees. Now, do you have a compensation route for that kind of employee that's going to allow that kind of incentive for movement up?
We do have like the public service associate, and so you need your associate degree at this time. And then what we do is there's also clerks that take part in this, and if they're interested, and they will come and they'll ask about going back to school. And so,
So you got to have an associate to get in the program?
no, not the CDP, to be a public service associate,
Which is a job.
which is a job level. So,
Okay, so I'm saying, if you have a high school diploma, but you're a very good employee, you get in this program, very competent, and in fact, you're exceptional. What incentives do you have to keep going? Do you have any financial compensation added to this? Do you have a educational incentive, like a little scholarship or assistantship? What are the steps up?
when we talk to them, we ask them what their career goals are. If they're interested in pursuing like higher education, we always make sure that they know to join the staff association as soon as possible. The staff association is free the first year you're part of the library. We also tell them about the tuition reimbursement that the library itself offers. There's also like classes you can, like informal training, like on Niche Academy and some of the other things that we have. And so we help them, and sometimes they don't want to go all the way, say, and get a master's, but some people are just like, they want to try a different career path. So, you know, some of them are interested in working in processing versus, so we'll set up shadowing opportunities with that department. So there, because we even have pages in this program, so everybody can take part.
Well, it's exciting because once you light that fire and you get them confidence and they know they can do it and they want to take off, you need a venue to go to. And it becomes very exciting. So I think it's a great program.
Thank you.
Good
Did
luck.
you have, thank you.
Yeah, I want to also agree with my colleagues here that this is a wonderful program. I had a previous job where we had to do goal setting and things like that, and my two goals that came out of that were I want to learn Spanish and I want to travel, which led me in, and also volunteer, which led me into the Peace Corps. So even if it leads people outside of the institution, which we don't want to lose people. But that's still a great thing because even after I finished my service, I was able to come back and take on other duties in that job, in that same job before I came over to NDPL. But I was thinking like what you were saying, like you set somebody up with like somebody within the organization to follow up with them on their goals and planning. And this, I feel like would be so well tied into the mentorship program that Greg is developing. And I would love to see those things kind of work together. I'm sure you're probably already thinking about that.
Yeah, we're part of that
Oh,
too.
oh,
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Okay.
Every person that goes through is set up with with the mentoring program.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Great. Any
And I
other?
appreciate it because I went through the interim conversations, and that's how I had my opportunity to interim as an arm. So it was very
Just one
worthwhile.
point. Perhaps working with Kim Uris could help with increasing that effort toward more of the diversity, because this is such an invaluable opportunity, and maybe Kim can help out in some way. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Palacio?
so yeah, great program. My question is why there is a limitation to up to 14.
Yeah,
Because it's 1 hour per person, and we have a maximum of 7 people in an 8-hour day. And we do 2 panels, 1 on each side of the LSC room. We just kind of split it in half, and so we're able to do 14 as a maximum in a
It's
one-day
just-
time period.
Yeah, capacity.
Right, and then you follow up with them, so it takes time afterwards.
Yeah.
Right.
Great questions. All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, if anyone doesn't have any other questions, that completes the CEO's report.
Great, thank you very much. I see no unfinished business and no new business for this meeting. Next item is future agenda items. This time is made available for discussion items not on the agenda which are of interest to library board members. It's an opportunity to suggest items be included. Future library board meeting agendas. Do any board members have something to suggest for the November 2023 board meeting? All right, nothing there. The next regular board meeting is going to be November 27th, 2023, at the Spades Park Branch, 1801 Nowland Avenue, at 6:30 p.m. Any other business? Okay. Before we adjourn the meeting, Dr. White, Mr. Lane, please make sure to sign the papers before you leave. All right. Other than that, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.